That brings Christmas to life right there, doesn't it? Oh, I think so. It's just kind of wonderful. And since Christmas is just about upon us, you realize it's less than 2 weeks away? Everybody got that in your mind and heart? Have you done all the shopping? Not yet. I tell you what, the one part about Christmas that I like the most is I go down and go to the Christmas tree places where they're selling those trees, you know, and I just love the smell of that pine. Oh, it just, whew, it's so good. And what it does is it brings back a bunch of wonderful memories to me, the smell of that pine tree. Because we didn't have any of those when I was a little kid. We had good pine trees in the house. Now, when we started our family, we started with those artificial things, you know. They didn't got no smell at all. If they do, it's not right. but maybe you have something that triggers those memories for you. I hope you do, because the joy of Christmas is just so wonderful. I think the only reason it just keeps on going is because every year people get all excited about it and they start saying, wow, this is Christmas, and it's great. And then they drown their sorrows on New Year's. No. It's these memory ticklers that are the real essence of Christmas is past, and they're the greatest hint of all that good that is to come. It's hard to remember what we got for Christmas, but it's almost impossible to keep from being flooded with those feelings of Christmas, whether they're good or whether they're painful. They're both rank in there. What we have. And that doesn't have to be on Christmas Eve or Christmas morning. This morning was a good time to start, and tonight would be a good time to keep it going. You see, these memory ticklers can come to you in July. As a matter of fact, you know, we have Christmas in July here, and we have the tree up and everything, and we give away those gifts to a needy family. And I'll tell you what, I can feel the feeling of the congregation when we do that. It's I did something one worthwhile. I gave something of myself with no hope of return at all. I've given it, and it's going to go to somebody that really needs it. And boy, I feel great. I mean, you know, that's the kind of thing that we're looking for, and that's the kind of thing we have. So relive the essence of Christmas with joy and with peace. For me, it's a pretty big thrill. It was the one time when I could be reasonably sure that my folks weren't going to fuss at me too much. And more importantly, they would actually pay some attention to my brother and me. They actually would listen to us for at least a part of that day. And that was wonderful. And besides that, we almost always went to Tennessee to see my granny. Oh, I'll tell you, she had a big old 4-story house that was filled with just unimaginable secrets. And there were these smells. Oh, they had good things baking all the time in there. And there was the smells of those good things. And you know, it was years later until I realized that little bitty lady that was just so tall and thin as a rail, that she was a good business manager. She was running a boarding house, and she was feeding a bunch of people every day. And she was gentle and kind, but boy, was she ever determined. There was nothing going to stand in that woman's way. And so what she ran was a pretty successful boarding house. But to me, she was nothing more than a bundle of comfort and love and fun and the source of all good things to eat. Oh, but the center, the climax, was always at that tree. Remember? It was, you didn't gather somewhere else on Christmas morning or Christmas Eve, you gathered at the tree. And so the smell of the pine is the experience of Christmas. Now, I say that knowing that not all of you have any joy in the experience of Christmas at all. I think for some of you, probably humbug describes the whole process. Not for me, but for you guys. Yet, for everybody, it's the same event. It happened at the very same time. So why is it that Christmas is so different for so many people? Why isn't it the same for everybody? Does the answer jump to your mind as it does to mine? It's simply because every one of us is different. Environmentally, genetically, emotionally, intellectually. Our paths have been different. Actually, about the only thing that we share in common are these holy days. The rest, we find ourselves on very different paths of life. And yet, every one of us has heard and should know the universal intent of Christmas. That is, that every one of us should feel, experience peace and joy, newness, and a sense of personal worth, wholeness in this spirit of Christmas. Those are gifts that we've been given by God, but you know something? There are a lot of people that haven't accepted any or many of those gifts at all. And I wonder why not. So, I think it would be wise to try to see and understand to some degree at least how this new way of life that Christmas represents can wipe away the barriers, can lead us into a new life. That's what New Year's represents, isn't it? Into a new life. And it tells us, Christmas tells us not just how to give gifts, but how to receive the great gifts of God, plenty, peace, the Christ, and renewal. And if you're like most people, you were educated to believe that each of us is what we were ordained by nature and circumstance to be. That's it. We were formed into an unalterable genetic structure by inheritance from parents and their progenitors. And that, of course, defines our physical characteristics, our intelligence quotient, and behavioral traits. Circumstances of birth, cultural truths taught you, conditions of life, such as plenty or poverty, and specific accidents of crisis, good or bad. All of these combined with the genetic structure make you what you are. Now that's what some people believe. That's the tale that's told, and many of us still, to one degree or another, still believe all that junk. But it's the highest form of ignorance. It truly is. You may be what you are in terms of genes and environment, but it's not because you have to be. It's only because we have allowed ourselves to remain ignorant of the most powerful life factor there is. Your mind. Your own mind. It's been proven millions of times. It's been taught by the great philosophers. It's an integral part of the religion of Jesus Christ. And that is simply that you do have the power of mind with which to make free choices. And there is no power on earth or in heaven that can take that power of mind away from you. And it doesn't make any difference how high your IQ is either, or how low it is. And it certainly doesn't make any difference in terms of your present condition, your past environments, or your inherited genes. You have a mind. Oh, yes, you do. Yeah, you have a mind. And it is the power tool that overcomes any negative quality of life, past, present, or intended for the future. And it can even alter those memory stimulators that have in the past brought you pain. May alter them through understanding in your mind. And understand so thoroughly that they become the source of renewed satisfaction and joy. That's the power of your mind. And the starting point for these alterations is for you to make an assessment of yourself right now as to who and what you are, as opposed to what you should be. Oh, how many of us have made our lives miserable by thinking, I should be, and I'm not. Has any of you ever gotten any good out of doing that? No. So what you should be doing is to say, okay, this is the way I am right at this moment. Now this is a twist, you understand. You see, plenty does not depend upon what you have nearly so much as it does how you feel about what you have and are. So how do you feel about yourself? How do you feel about yourself in the midst of circumstances of your life and your genetic inheritance? You feel cheated? Or do you feel like you got a good deal? And that you're making it a better deal every day? So if you feel wonderful and joyful and peaceful, then this exam is over for you. You got it, so I'm not even, you can turn off and go to sleep if you want to. you already have everything you want. You already have been accepting God's gifts to plenty. On the other hand, if somehow your life seems to have some lack, then ask yourself, what should I be like in my attitudes? Oh, not what I should be like in the view of all my fellow people around me. Am I given all good stuff or what? No. What should my attitude be? And you know, there's a good place to look for that, for help. And it comes from all places, the Sermon on the Mount that Jesus taught so many years ago. And I want to read to you an example of that. This is Matthew, the 5th chapter, beginning with the 43rd verse. You have heard that it was said, you shall love your neighbor and hate your enemies. But I say to you, love your enemies and pray for those who persecute you, so that you may be sons of the Father who is in heaven. For he makes the sun rise on the evil and on the good, and sends rain on the just and the unjust. For if those you love, for if you love those who love you, what reward have you? Do not even the tax collectors do the same? And if you salute only your brethren, what more are you doing than the others? Do not even the Gentiles do the same? You, therefore, must be perfect, even as your heavenly Father is perfect. Now that must be perfect is a kind of an interesting thing, because it doesn't mean that you are obligated to become perfect. It says you already must be perfect. Twist. Very good. That leads us to understand that we need to make changes, not so much in the outer things of our lives, but in our attitudes and in our actions. Question is, can you do it? Can I do it? Can I switch horses in the middle of this stream? Oh yeah, Jesus says you can. He says it not just once, but dozens of times, and always makes it clear that, gee whiz, it's just our lack of acceptance rather than our lack of ability that stands in the way of making our changes. We want the plenty, don't we? But we interrupt our ability to have that plenty with our poverty-filled opinions and attitudes and the idea that we got to have our own way or no way at all. Now, where in the world did we get such attitudes as that? Did we get them from God or from Christianity? I don't think so. The Bible is the textbook on personal prosperity. So where do we get them? Well, we got them from the mistaken, ignorant opinion of other people that we trusted, not knowing that they were ignorant themselves. So comes this point in your life when you can see that you can use your own mind power to make those changes. You can grasp the truth now. You can bring your attitudes into change. And you can learn to accept these gifts of plenty. You do it when you learn to deal with life and its circumstances and things as they are, rather than what people think they should be. Or people tell you you listen to people, they tell you this is the way it ought to be. Sometimes you can get in deep trouble by listening to what people say about stuff like that. So the question is, how do I make this kind of change in my thinking? Well, you might want to start with just sitting down and saying, this is the way I want to feel about myself and my life. This is the way I want to feel about myself and life. Okay? Once you get that in mind, I want to feel good, I want to feel happy, I want to feel prosperous, I want to feel whole, those things. Once you've done that, then you say, I feel that way. You use your imaging power and you see yourself that way. You can do it. You can do it. I don't care what your situation is. You can just do that. And then, to make sure that you're going to keep feeling that way, you want to image one or more activities that'll help you sustain that feeling. So the next step is for you to image the paraphernalia you would be using when you're performing those activities. And then just see yourself doing that, using them, becoming that person that is serving and feeling so wonderful, so happy, so loving, so everything good. Just do that. And oh well, I can't do it. No, forget that. You can also image the education or training that you expect to need to prepare you for those activities. So just image those diplomas and certificates on the wall bearing your name and attesting that you have completed that training. Just see that. Once you see it, you start feeling good about it, so you start wanting to do those activities that lead you to actually get those things on the wall. So you're going to image yourself performing those activities in an aura of friendliness, of mutual respect, of professionalism, of group satisfaction. Now, in that picture, you also want to make the surroundings what you think they need to be. That is, you're going to have adequate equipment, you're going to have willing helpers, you're going to have stimulating environment. Now, you got all that done. Now, relax and simply enjoy the experience of providing worthwhile service. I tell you, friends, that the greatest feeling you ever get in your life is when you're providing worthwhile service to somebody else. So just enjoy it. But you're not finished. In your imaging process, you want to complete doing that service for the day, and then you just leave from wherever you are. And you enter an automobile of your choice, and you drive that automobile to your home. I want you to see the car, I want you to see the house, describe it to yourself so that you know it is your own. You enter the house, whichever one you want. Describe it to yourself. And as you enter, you're going to see your family, sure. Oh, yeah. You've got to have a family, whether it's real or not real. Many of you have family that you want it to be real, so you image the people there. But if you want somebody else there, fine. Image them there too. And the reason for doing that is you're going to feel the warmth and the love of your family. And you're going to go through the process of hugging, and then of eating, and then of sharing the day and planning worthwhile projects, or going out with them to perform those projects together. In your mind, enjoy that whole total scene and all of those interactions. You can get a copy of this, so you can go through it again. But I want to pause for just a second and consider what you're doing and its value to you. The first thing is I want you to be fully aware that in all of the process we've undergone, there was no ever any mention of you requiring any kind of money or having to own anything. You did all of those things because they were yours to do. Not because you had to pay for them, not because you had to own them to do it, but just simply because that was the thing. Can you feel that? Can you understand that? You see, having ownership is of secondary importance. The real value lies in being able to be a part and to share the process of living well and serving greatly. That's what it's all about. You see, we're able to focus attitudinally on only compatible objectives at any one time. You can't be happy and sad at the same time, can you? So when you focus ourselves on the fact of possession or ownership as a requirement, we stand a very good chance of losing all of the pleasures of the service and being, because we feel bad we don't own whatever that is. And we don't even own the paraphernalia to provide that service. And if you don't own it, well, I'm bereft. I'm in poverty. What, you see? So you take the idea of ownership right out of all of that sort of stuff. And the usual scenario leaves the ownership-driven person frantic about what she or he does not own. Thus, they're unable to enjoy what they do own. And certainly that which you can't control by right of title. I mean, if ownership is what you have to have, then you make yourself unhappy if you don't have every dime of it, every stick of it. If it's not under your control, then you're not happy. You have to go searching and frantically doing stuff to get it. Now understand that the person who has this problem of ownership is usually very rich. They're usually powerful. And they're usually shrewd enough to bounce back from any kind of loss. Yet in the process of all of that, they're unstable emotionally, and their relationships often suffer very greatly. I don't think it's very desirable, do you? No. Yet, does anybody not here like to own stuff? I like to own stuff. I think all of us should like to own stuff. And it sort of gives us a secure feeling of having enough and the kind of asset plan that's going to provide for our loved ones if something should happen to us. Perfectly natural and perfectly normal. So let me hasten to say that having and owning things and having an asset plan to meet contingencies is not only not bad, it's a very wise thing to do. Who would you rather be rich? The good person or the bad person? But what I want to say is that you don't need to suffer for the gaining of the ownership. You don't need to lose sight of the joys of life to get the ownership, to get the things, to have the plan. So our challenge is to create an attitude that includes the joy and the worthwhileness of our own self and of the service that we perform for other people. That, ipso facto, that's a good word. I don't know what it means, but it sounds great. Your focus is going to be on living well and serving greatly. And you know what? That's pretty analogous to what Jesus said one time. He said, it's recorded in Matthew the 6th chapter, the 31st verse. Therefore do not be anxious, saying, what shall we eat, or what shall we drink, or what shall we wear? For the Gentiles seek all these things, and your heavenly Father knows that you need them all. You know the rest of this, don't you? But seek first His kingdom and His righteousness, and all these things shall be yours as well. Change your attitude to love, joy, peace, and all the things that you want or need in life become yours. So it's become apparent from Jesus' teaching and experience in the everyday material world that there is one infallible way to assure that you personally are always receiving God's gift of plenty. And that is to use the power of your own mind to focus on becoming a serving person. Doing your best in every circumstance. Being your best through any event in life. Do all that you do or think or feel within the law of love. And the promise is that every need you have will be fulfilled. And what better time is there to start doing this than right now, Christmas time? What more practical gift could you expect to receive than the full assurance that all your needs are going to be met in the year to come? And what greater gift can you give to those around you than your own expression of totally loving, caring in your attitude toward them? Just think what wonderful memory tinklers there will be, yours, that will be at your bidding for your own future. Just by doing that one thing. Let me leave you with those thoughts that we started with. Plant them deeply into your mind. I am a child of God. I am a child of God. I am made in the image and likeness of God. I am imbued with the power, presence, and wisdom of God. I create what I image. I create what I image. I image only wholeness, abundance, kindness, and loving service. I image only wholeness, abundance, kindness, and loving service. I am happy and fulfilled. I am happy and fulfilled. God is blessing us in this Christmas season. Let it be accepted by you so that your life will be the light of the cross. Bless you.